vibes in this attic. Lot going on, but there ain't no need to panic. Come on up and join, we getting wild, getting manic. Spitting truth for all you fanatics. Every week got something new to say. Ain't no filter, this shit coming straight from the brain.
It's coming straight from the brain.
Yeah, it's coming straight from the brain.
Yeah, let's do it, man.
All right, folks, thanks for tuning in. I'm here with Adam Riley. He's a contestant from the most recent season of Alone, season 9. So, spoiler alert, you're about to learn some things that if you haven't seen the season yet, you're not going to want to know. Thanks for tuning in, but I'm going to tell you to tune out now. Come check this out again after you watch season 9. Adam, welcome to A Talk in the Attic.
Thank you very much, Kurt. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, man. So my wife and I and brother-in-law, we tuned in every week religiously to Alone. We love the show. And you were such a different kind of contestant than we've seen before. Of course, you had the skills required to make it, but your comedy and obviously everyone probably talks to you about your Halloween skit. That was hilarious. So before we jump into Alone, though, you have a really interesting background, a background that probably sets you apart from the standard Alone contestant. So explain that a little bit. Talk about where you're from. Talk about your life leading up to getting selected for Alone.
Well, there's a lot to talk about, I guess. I would say that compared to the traditional contestant, like you said, I kind of have maybe a little bit more of a diverse background when it comes to experiences. Don't really come from like a traditional kind of bush crafting, living off the land sort of background.
Right.
My parents weren't outdoors people at all. We had a farm, but nobody in my family hunted, nobody in my family fished.
Yeah.
And it was really just me kind of running off into the woods as a kid, that kind of stoked my love for the outdoors.
Yeah.
But I've done a lot of cool stuff, man.
Yeah, I mean, so it's really like your thirst for adventure above all else that really probably defines kind of your character, would you say?
Exactly. Yeah. Alone to me was kind of another chapter in the various things that I've done throughout my life. It was definitely one of the most hardcore things that I've done. But maybe not the most hardcore thing that I've done. And I felt like the experiences that I had, plus my kind of outdoor experience, just through just being outside, being out in nature as often as I have, would maybe give me kind of a unique perspective going into the show and allow me to kind of approach things a little bit differently or think outside of the box a little bit.
Yeah. So you were born in the UK.
Yeah. Yeah. So I was born in a little industrial town in the north of England. It was kind of a dead end town, like literally like the train track stopped there. And in the 90s, it was considered the worst place in England to live. Like literally they had rankings of cities, and it was at the bottom of the list 2 years in a row. So
just lots of pollution or what? Just not what's
crime, pollution, lack of jobs. Had nothing going for it. Really.
Yeah.
It was like, no offense to anyone from Detroit, but like Detroit in the 90s, early 2000s, it's kind of like that.
Yeah.
It's just like it had been part of like a fishing industry, and then the fishing industry disappeared, and when that disappeared, all the jobs disappeared.
Yeah.
So my mom decided to move us out to the States. Just classic kind of immigrant story.
Yeah.
Like looking for better opportunities for her kids.
So are both your parents English natives or?
Yeah, I mean I am too.
Yeah.
Like I still have a British passport. My most of my family still lives over there. My dad still lives over there. A couple of my brothers, my grandparents.
Wow.
Really the only person over here. I have my mom and one of my brothers. That's the only people in my family that live here in the States. So don't let the accent fool you. I'm pretty much 100% Brit.
You're kind of hard to pin down anyway, though. You know, because of your English upbringing, you don't really have like the standard. Did you grow up in Arkansas or Florida or which kind of?
Yeah, so we moved to Florida. And I kind of lived in Florida for, well, obviously until I finished high school, and then I took off and started my traveling and, my adventures and stuff like that. But Florida was always kind of where I came back to
Yeah.
and ground myself when I needed a few months to save up some money or something like that.
Yeah.
And I did that till I was about 29, 28, and then that was when I moved to Arkansas.
Nice. So, we talked about this a little before we started, but in your Alone bio, the opening paragraph says it kind of just drops this in. You know, it doesn't say any background. It just says after he graduated high school, he quit his job as a professional alligator wrestler. So how does one? What is professional alligator wrestling, and how does one become a professional to the point where when they graduate high school, they're already getting out of the game?
I mean, there probably isn't the highest demand for the job.
Yeah.
But it was kind of Joe Dirt style,
Yeah.
like we had this gator farm a couple of miles down the road from where we lived called Gatorland. And it's like a tourist attraction in Florida. It's like old Florida tourist attraction,
Yeah.
like old Florida being like the rednecky shit.
Yeah.
Like airboat rides and that sort of stuff. Yeah. And I had grown up going there, and I was super into reptiles when I was younger. Like I wanted to be a herpetologist, who's a person that studies reptiles.
Yeah.
Spent all my time out in the woods catching reptiles. That was kind of like the reason why I would go out into the woods, was to look for snakes and turtles and frogs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it was like my dream job. And I remember I was 17. And the second I turned 18, I went down there, and they had fortunately, they had an opening because the last guy
died,
had bitten in the face by an alligator.
Yeah.
So the guy whose job I got, he was out for like 4 months, and he came back and he had just like this ring of scars around his face when he got bitten in the face by this gator.
He came back to the sport though?
Oh, he was in it, man. He was all about it. Yeah. Those guys are nuts. I mean, they were true Florida men,
Yeah.
So I got that job, and I did that for close to a year. And I mean, it paid like $7.50 an hour, and it wasn't just wrestling gators. They were, we had a show where we were handling venomous snakes. We'd pull like a rattlesnake out of the box and, have it strike a balloon and stuff. And
yeah,
I mean, it was pretty wild. And fortunately, I got out with all my digits and without any major accidents. But it was always just kind of like something I was going to do for a while. And I had my sights set on traveling, and I saved up. I scrimped and I saved, and I slept in my parents' garage, because once I turned 18, it's like, no, you can't be in the house anymore.
Yeah. All right, can I be out there or in the garage? Or,
yeah, exactly. I saved up a few $1,000 and bought a ticket to South Africa, and I flew out there, and from there I caught a puddle jumper over to Madagascar, and I spent 3 months in Madagascar. And that was really where I kind of like cut my teeth. I call that kind of my like my rite of passage into adulthood,
Yeah.
It was pretty hardcore. Like at the time, I think the entire island of Madagascar was only getting maybe 5,000 tourists a year, which, to like put that into perspective, the Bahamas gets like 1 million.
Yeah.
So I saw like 2 white people the whole time I was there.
Yeah.
And nobody spoke English. It was either French or Malagasy, and I didn't speak either. And I just kind of bumbled and fumbled my way through that experience. But it really gave me the bug for, going to wild places and doing crazy shit.
Yeah, I mean, what was it, an organized situation, or did you just go there and figure it out? I just
bought a ticket, landed, and I had a Lonely Planet travel guide,
Yeah.
And I found this like really shitty hotel in the capital the first day. I was so green, man. Like
no life experience, really. Yeah.
None, dude.
Yeah.
I was so green that I was too scared for the first 2 days to like go out and like find food. I was just
Yeah.
there was a guy on the like it was kind of like this. I was in this hovel. It was like $3 a night, and it was like literally like the most bare. It was disgusting room with like a mattress on the floor, and there was this guy selling bread outside, and I was just eating like French baguettes for like the first 2 days because I was like so overwhelmed with what I was doing.
Yeah.
But you know, it made me who I am in some ways, and that trip was cool.
Yeah.
That trip.
I mean, talk about a little bit about like the experience of, I mean, on the show Alone, of course, it's called Alone. There's a lot of people complaining about like contestants complaining about being alone. But folks, if you're watching this and you're complaining about people talking about being alone, the show is called Alone. Okay. And so like it's going to be focused on the psychological part of being alone. That's the one of the largest challenges of the whole thing. But you already kind of had done that in Madagascar. So what development and lessons did you learn from that first experience of really just going out there without a plan and without any knowledge really? And how did you grow from that? Was it obviously it outweighed the benefits obviously outweighed the fear?
Yeah, it was just a huge growth experience in terms of my self-reliance, my ability to kind of make things happen, and you know, just kind of my self-confidence.
Yeah.
You know, when you're 18 years old, like we're all still trying to figure out who we are, and we're strutting around, but we don't know fucking shit.
Exactly,
you know,
exactly. That's a quote of the episode so far. That's right.
Yeah. And you know that really helped me out. And then I would say probably the other major formative experience I had when I was young was shortly after I got back from back up, buddy. After I got back from Africa, I did a couple of other trips. I went to Central America, but they were like surfing trips, you know.
Yeah.
But I got a job working at a wilderness therapy program in Utah.
Nice.
I'd come home back to Florida, and one of my buddies had got me a job working at a nightclub as a bouncer. And
such a diverse set of experiences.
Man, it was wild. Like this job, and you know, when you're 21, it was cool and everything, but like after a few months, it was just, you know, alcohol, drugs,
same
partying,
shit
like,
every night.
Yeah, you're up to like 4 or 5 in the morning.
Yeah.
And this place we were working at was pretty wild. Like there'd be fights almost every night. And I had this like crystallizing experience where I was working on like the second floor VIP of this club, and this guy started kicking off. And the bartender and the bar back jumped over the bar to grab this guy and throw him out. And I'm like, well, shit, they're doing my job. I better get over there and help him out.
Yeah.
So like we're escorting this guy out. I have no idea even what he said to these dudes to piss him off, but it must have been pretty bad. Because we get to the fire escape, they kick open the fire escape, and they literally bum toss this dude down a flight of freaking metal stairs. And he rolls down to the bottom, and he hits the asphalt at the bottom, and he is completely unconscious. And these two freaking dudes run down and proceed to start kicking him while he's unconscious on the ground.
Yeah.
And I'm just standing at the top of this fire escape, and I'm just like, okay, this is not me.
This isn't what I didn't go learn about myself so I can come beat the shit out of some drunk guy.
So I immediately went home, and I was like, what is the exact opposite from what I'm doing now? And I typed in like
Utah
outdoor online. Yeah, and it was like wilderness therapy in Utah. I was like, yep, that's the one.
Yeah.
So I sent an application, and I just packed up all my shit, and I jumped in the truck, and I drove out there. You know, I didn't have the job. Basically, they said if you come out and you go through the interview process, which is 5 days out in the desert, then maybe we'll consider giving you the job. And that was enough for me. So I just packed up my shit and I drove out there, and ended up being there for 2 years. And honestly, like that was the best job I've ever had in my life, because you're out in the wilderness and you're using the wilderness as a tool to facilitate growth. And you know, so many of the teenagers that were coming through that program, they had drug problems, abuse problems, they were severely bullied, you know, and they were dealing with real stuff. And watching them kind of like just blossom out in the desert, you know, by doing really hard skills. Like these kids were not allowed to graduate unless they passed certain hard skills. So they had to learn how to make a friction fire. They wouldn't leave. Like they wasn't like a 30-day program or a 20-day program. They were there from until the program
Until they
said
completed it. Yeah.
so some of the kids were there for like 100+ days without leaving, like in the desert.
Man.
And it was a life-changing experience for them, and it was a life-changing experience for me, because I was only 21 years old at the time. I
Yeah.
had a lot to learn about myself as well, and going through that program with those kids just helped really just crystallize my priorities and who I was as a person, and
Yeah.
also kind of like stoked my love for primitive skills and for bushcrafting, which is ultimately what landed me on Alone.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah. That's a cool experience. Yeah. I mean, so in 3 years you go from alligator wrestling. I mean, I guess driving out to Utah sounds scary to me as a 21-year-old, but if you'd already done the things you had done, that's one of the easier risks you've probably ever taken at that point.
Yeah, I'd have figured something out.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, you could
you
speak the
know?
language and yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That's super cool. So from there, I know you got into like alpaca shearing and things of that nature. So why did you leave the wilderness therapy job, and then what was your next kind of phase?
I left. I decided to go back to college, and got accepted into to university back in England,
Hmm.
because obviously being a British citizen, the cost of tuition is so much lower there. It's like $3,000 a year to go to school in the UK.
Wow.
So it was kind of a no brainer
Yeah.
to go back there, and I still needed money to live. So I was like, okay, I need to find a trade that I can do seasonally where I can make a lot of money.
Yeah.
And my parents had a farm; they had alpacas, so I'd seen this guy coming through shearing my parents' alpacas every year, and it just seemed like a good gig. So I reached out to him, and
Yeah.
he agreed to take me on as an apprentice, and I worked with him for a season and kind of showed me the basics and gave me some of his old gear, and all right, there you go.
That's pretty cool. I mean, that's cool.
I faked it, dude. I was so bad the first couple of years. My God, those poor people who had to hired.
Hey, I've gotten my hair cut in some like training institutes before, so I can imagine how those alpacas feel.
Oh man, I got the worst haircut of my life at one of those schools.
Yeah,
I
cheap
went in
though.
there and I had long hair, and I just needed it trimmed, and I came out looking like George Washington, man. I'm not even
Powdered wig. Yeah,
It gave me like one of those like ladies
mushroom cuts, kind of.
yeah, mushroom cut. Exactly.
You should have done that for Alone. I think that would have been.
Oh
Yeah.
man, I don't have enough hair anymore.
Yeah. So the process of that was always appealing to you, the idea of seasonality in your work, so that would afford you the opportunity to kind of bust your ass for a period of time and then go explore. Is that what the thought process was?
At the time, it was more just like I can do this in the summer and make enough money to pay my way through college. But by the time I finished college, I was kind of like, okay, this is a legit thing. Like there's good money in this.
Yeah.
And I wanted to kind of go back to doing some more serious expeditions and stuff like that, and kind of level up a little bit.
Right.
And that was a way to do it. Like I was just like, okay, I can, I don't make amazing money, but it was enough to kind of like, if you're living out of a truck and living, spending months in the wilderness, like it,
Money goes a long ways. Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I did that pretty much until all through my 20s.
So what did you study at school? Herpetology?
I studied African studies.
Oh, that's okay.
African studies and development studies. It was a specialty school for African and Oriental studies, is what it's called. School of Oriental African Studies is what it's called.
Wow.
And after I'd come back from Madagascar and South Africa, I'd gone back to sub-Saharan Africa a couple of times and just really fell in love with that part of the world. And I kind of knew, even at that age, that I didn't really want to have like a white collar office job.
Yeah.
And I was like, if I'm going to go back to school, I want it to just do it in something that I'm interested in, and something that I like. And, then I'll just keep grinding away with a hammer or a set of shears or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like it doesn't matter,
Well, that's great. So what is African studies or that sort of program? What does it focus on? Like the anthropology and the movement of those civilizations, or the history, or all of that, or what is it?
It's multidisciplinary, so you can kind of focus your studies in what area of specialty that really interests you.
Yeah.
I'm a big history buff, so I did a lot of courses on the transatlantic slave trade and the history of the slave trade.
Yeah.
And you're also studying language and religion and that sort of thing, because I mean it all works together
Yeah.
just to come to a more holistic view of whatever part of the world it is you're studying.
You're right.
But it was just interesting. It was cool. I didn't never really thought like, I'm going to be a college professor in African studies at the end of this.
Yeah. Is that the job track? I mean, what does
I don't know.
Yeah, there really isn't a job track.
The majority of my friends from that course are probably working for an NGO or nonprofit in for the UN or something like that. Like that. A lot of jobs in the development field. That sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, coming from
the liberal arts degree.
Yeah,
yeah.
But there's still value in that. I mean, I went to school for engineering.
Absolutely.
I went to school for engineering, and of course I used that for my career for a period of time, and of course you use that in your day to day a little bit. But I wish I have more of a mentality now of like, man, I wish I just would have learned what I wanted to learn instead of being so focused on what job I was going to end up at. Because then you end up rushing through the time where you really have the opportunity and the flexibility to learn without pressure.
Exactly. And that was kind of one of the big reasons why I went back to the UK to study, was because I was like, I'm not going to, rack up 30, 40 grand in debt for African studies.
Yeah. Right.
Or something like that. Like if I had gone to school in the US, I probably would have done similar to you, like engineering or something.
Yeah. Something that you can convert to cash eventually or something.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's pretty cool. Okay. Wow. That's pretty crazy experience. We'll dive back into things. Anyone that's ever watched or listened to the show, that it's a Tarantino vibe here. So, we might dive around a little bit, but just in the interest of keeping it moving, a lot of people are going to be tuning in. They're going to be interested in your appearance on Alone. You're a fan favorite for sure. You're active in the Facebook group, which is cool. For people to be able to interact with you. And there's a few of you in there. But let's just talk about, okay, when did you, I know from some of your other content you put out that you kind of had heard about the show, but you hadn't really watched it until COVID. So explain, once you got the bug, okay, you know what? I think I could do this. I want to do this. How does the audition process, the application process look? And then let's just talk about your time leading up to when you actually landed in Labrador.
So the first time I ever heard about Alone was when they were casting for the first season. And I was actually at a primitive skills gathering in Idaho, and there was someone there trying to cast for the first season of Alone, and they had like a playbill sort of thing up on the bulletin board. I remember reading it and being like, that sounds fake.
That show's never gonna make it.
That'll never do well. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And little did I know. And of course, for the first season, they didn't know there was going to be a cash prize.
Oh,
which I find super interesting, because the guys who signed up for season 1 were just doing it for the glory,
Yeah.
And then they were like, someone was like, nah, we're going to give you $500,000. I'm like, oh, okay.
Oh, okay. I guess I'll do it then. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I was at home, pandemic 2020. I had just got back from my Pacific crossing on my sailboat.
Oh yeah.
And
hold on. We shouldn't even get into Alone yet. Hold on. Let's talk about that, because that's a big part of your story. So you spent a lot of time alone traversing major bodies of water in a small sailboat, right? On your own.
Yeah.
So
yes,
we should talk about that. Give me the details on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I started sailing in probably 2013. I used my shearing money and I bought a really cheap sailboat, and I did a couple of seasons in the Caribbean. I had a buddy with me on that one. I was totally alone for that, but it kind of like gave me the skills and the confidence to be like, okay, I'm ready to do something big. And I ended up having to sell that boat a couple of years after I got it, because my dad had a stroke, and that was when I moved to Arkansas to kind of take care of the farm and that sort of stuff while he was getting better.
Yeah. And
then once he was better, I was like, okay, it's time to do this thing. So I bought a sailboat in 2018. It's a 60-year-old wooden sailboat. Beautiful 35-foot sailboat, all teak and mahogany,
Yeah.
and it was, unfortunately, like, old wooden sailboats are actually really inexpensive. That's one thing people don't realize, because a lot of people are afraid of them. They think that it's like so much work, and I mean, and it can be,
Yeah.
but a well-maintained one's all right.
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
got really,
Technologically, they haven't changed that much over the years compared to like a standard boat, right? I mean, the sailboats of 60 years ago aren't that different than they are today, right?
no, that's the design specs are a little bit different, but I mean, the big difference between a sailboat 60 years ago and a sailboat today is that sailboat today's are all fiberglass.
Yeah, it's way lighter.
Nobody's
Yeah.
really building wooden boats anymore, except for like really niche, really expensive specialty boats.
Okay.
I mean, when it comes to wooden boats, the older boats are actually better in some ways, because the quality of the wood was much better back then.
Yeah.
Like, you couldn't find clear grained 35, 40-foot like board planks for building boats today, really, that it would cost you a fortune.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
so I bought this boat down in Panama, and I cruised down there after shearing season 2018, jumped on board, sailed it around the bay a little bit, was like, all right, I'm ready to go.
Yeah. We're one now. Me and the boat are one. We're ready.
I had 2 days of solo single-handed sailing experience before I set off across the Pacific.
Wow.
2 days, and I lifted my anchor from the Bay of Panama, and the first crossing was to the Galapagos, and that took 13 days. It was about 1,300 miles.
Wow.
And then it was just kind of bouncing from island to island. So the next one after that was 3,500 miles to the South Pacific, the Marquesas, which is part of the Polynesian chain of islands.
Yeah. Kind of in that near Fiji and
no, it's further east from Fiji. Fiji's in the western end of the Pacific.
Okay.
It's closer to like Tahiti.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So
out in the middle of nowhere, though.
In the middle of fucking nowhere.
Yeah.
Exactly. And 3,500 miles is a long way to go.
Yeah.
But, that was, if I had not done that trip, I don't think that I would have gotten onto Alone, because the producers really loved that angle. They loved that I had this experience being at sea, because being alone at sea is, I mean, there is nothing more isolating than that.
Yeah, I mean, when you're in the woods, you can see trees and other living things. When you're literally out in the middle, it's just flat, and there's nothing but sun and waves and your boat.
I mean, there were times when I was out on the Pacific where there was literally 1,000 miles in any direction. I was the only human being, and
crazy.
And when I was on Alone, yeah, you are completely alone, but in the back of your mind that 5 miles away there is a safety team, and you do have a button that you can push.
Right.
And if the shit really hits the fan, within an hour or two, maybe sometimes overnight, if the conditions are bad, someone will be there. But when you're out at sea, you don't have a tap out button.
No,
you're just there. You're doing it, and you have to get yourself to the next place. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it.
Yeah.
And you only have whatever you had brought on board with you.
Yeah.
So it's the ultimate test of self-reliance, and that was what I wanted. I really wanted to test myself and expose myself to that kind of isolation.
Yeah.
22, 24 days alone at sea, that sort of thing. It's no joke.
No, yeah.
Because the one thing that you're dealing with out there that you're not having to deal with, say, on the Alone experience, is you're not sleeping. So I would have to wake up every 25 minutes to check the horizon to make sure
you're not losing track of your navigation, and
you're not, to make sure you're not going off course, but also to make sure that there isn't a container ship or a fishing boat or something that just comes out of nowhere. Because I mean, you'd be surprised. You think man, there was a time of one of my crossings, I hadn't seen a single boat for 10 days. And I started relaxing. I was like, okay, there's nothing out here.
I could sleep for a couple days. Yeah.
Sleep for an hour. Yeah, exactly. So I'd set my alarm for an hour, and I set my alarm for an hour, and it dropped me into like REM sleep. And I didn't wake up. Like, I missed my alarm. And I woke up like 2 hours later, and something didn't feel right. And I came up and I looked at the horizon, and like, not even kidding, like less than a mile away, directly in front of me, was a fishing boat with his nets out. If I had slept for 15 more minutes, I would have hit him.
That's crazy.
I would have died.
Yeah.
I know.
And you would have pissed off those fishermen bad too.
Yeah, I mean, they would have been pissed off, but they probably would have been pretty shocked as well.
Yeah. They're probably like, wow, they were all sleeping too.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So, that was like, okay, back to 25 minutes.
Yeah, damn.
You're not sleeping. You have that constant kind of low level stress of being in like some degree of danger at all times.
Yeah.
My biggest nightmare was like going to take a piss off the back of the boat and just losing my footing and just falling into the water and just watching the boat just sail away without me.
Yeah, you would have never caught it.
No, oh no. I mean, once you fall off the boat, that's it. Like you go off the boat, you are dead, basically.
So do you in the races? Don't they like tether in somehow or something like that? Or
yeah, and I would tether when the weather was bad.
Yeah,
but you get kind of blasé about stuff like that pretty quick.
It becomes like the new normal fast, I imagine.
Yeah, exactly. Like so I'm when the weather was good, I'm just chilling. It's like it's fine.
Yeah, exactly. Get some sun, have a drink. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. So I mean, obviously the big difference on that boat. I know you probably had books. You're an avid reader and a history guy, so I'm sure you had a bunch of books and some sort of entertainment, music, and things of that nature.
Yeah, and that was one of the big things that you don't have when you're out on alone is that you don't have that. Even just being able to listen to music, you're hearing another human's voice. Like if you're reading, you're allowing your mind to wander to a different place.
Yeah,
and you don't have those outlets when you're on alone. You're just there with your thoughts.
Yeah. That's crazy. Yeah, I can understand why the producers were like, "All right, this guy's the guy. Let's add him." Because how many folks the year that you applied? First off, did you only apply once?
Yes.
And so, look at that, folks.
Probably
first
wouldn't
time.
have applied a second time if I hadn't gotten in the first time.
Yeah,
like,
well, I was gonna say persevere, folks, but don't persevere.
Okay. Yeah, do it, guys. Keep trying.
Keep trying. So, roughly how many people applied the year that you applied? Do you think?
They told us it was around 50,000.
50,000. So all these Facebook armchair quarterbacks that are pretending like, oh, why'd they do that? Guys, you can apply too. It's only you out of 50,000. Yeah, that's why they're pissed. Yeah,
I think that's why they're pissed. Exactly.
Well, this guy just travels across the world on a sailboat on his own. He gets to get in. That's bullshit. Yeah,
what a schmuck.
Yeah, what a schmuck. And then he only made it 55 days. How many days did you make it?
52.
52.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, that is crazy. Okay, so the application process, is it like just like you would apply for a job? It starts with a paper form and goes from there.
Yeah, so summer 2020, I'm just watching a lot of TV, and Alone popped up on my Netflix or Hulu or something like that. And
what else are you gonna do? It's COVID. Yeah,
someone had told me, they're like, oh, you'd be really good on that show. So I was like, well, let's check it out.
Yeah.
So I watched a couple of the earlier seasons, and that was probably a good thing. So watching nothing against the earlier seasons, but I think it's safe to say that like every year, kind of the level of quality of contestants has gone up.
Yeah. Through exposure and through money. Yeah, at the beginning, especially to consider the first season didn't even have a money prize. It's like that's going to be a pretty small pool, I imagine. Yeah.
And that being said, every season, there's always been a couple of people who are the real deal hardcore. Even season one, like Alan, like a lot of these early season guys.
Yeah.
There was some real cool qualified people.
Yeah.
But there was also a lot of kind of numpties as well.
Right.
Yeah. So I was watching a couple of the earlier seasons. So I was like,
I could do this.
I could probably do this.
Yeah.
I could do this.
Yeah, if you would have started with Roland season where he's lifting rocks and stabbing,
I don't know. I probably still would have thought about it, but it was definitely kind of like, okay, let's see what this is about. So I didn't think anything of it. I just went on the History Channel website and I found the application link and I just wrote them a quick email, and I didn't hear anything back for like 6 months. And then like March of last year, they messaged me, and the process started. Just starts with a phone call, and you just chat with someone on the phone, and then that progresses to like a Zoom chat, and from there you're kind of in the system, and they expect you to send some videos of you, show you doing stuff, so that they can tell that you're not just blowing smoke up their asses,
right? And that you have a presence on camera, probably too, as a show at the end of the day.
Exactly. I mean, that's really important. I think that's one of the things that people who are maybe a little bitter about applying and not getting on, they don't seem to realize is like ultimately like this. A lot of people call this the survival Olympics. I don't think of it that way. It's a TV
It's
show,
marketing.
and
Yeah, they're trying to sell the dollars for advertisers.
It's a reality TV show,
Yeah.
and it is real. It's the realest reality TV out there, but it is still for entertainment purposes. It's not the Olympics.
Right.
They want people who are going to be entertaining, who are going to be able to use the camera as well, who are going to get the shot, who are going to think about the shot first and foremost.
Yeah.
And the camera work is really important.
Not to mention a huge amount of effort. It's a big effort that you're not necessarily thinking about when you're heading into surviving. You're like, oh, I also have to be a cinematographer too, and an actor. And
yeah. So, if you are going to apply for the show, and you get to the point where they want you to send videos, be really mindful of the quality of the videos that you're sending in. Don't just be like, all right, here we are.
Blair Witch.
Yeah,
exactly. Boogers in your nose and shit. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. So then once you're kind of whittled down, they start with 50,000. I've heard other contestants talk about a boot camp, and I know they show, maybe they show that sometimes on the intro episodes, but what is the boot camp, and is that the final selection process?
Yeah, the boot camp's the final selection process. So they get it down to around 24, 25 people. And basically that's where they separate the wheat from the chaff. Like they really get to drill down and make sure you're not, because even with like kind of videos that you're sending in, if you're trying to make a trap or something,
you could cut it and then work on it for 6 hours.
Yeah, you could have 20 videos where you fuck up making that trap, and then you may finally get it and like send them that one. Same with fire or something. Take you 5 days to get a friction fire going.
You just start it with a lighter and then cut.
Yeah. So they do a lot of skills. You go through quite a lot of psychological evaluations and that sort of thing. They want to make sure you're not going to crack out there and hang yourself or something like that.
Right.
And I think they also want to make sure that you're easy to work with. Because like obviously, a lot of people who are applying for the show, it's going to be kind of a different kind of person who wants to do it.
Very independent. And
yeah, but you would think maybe, we really want these kind of like woods hermits, but I don't think they do, because even though that person may be successful out on the show, they also have to spend months and months beforehand working with that person, and months afterwards working with that person. They want to make sure that you're, if you're doing an interview like this, that you're going to present yourself well.
Yeah.
So like, it's not all about the skills.
Right.
And as I think is obvious from the, the casting process when you actually end up meeting the final 10.
Yeah. I mean, if they really were just interested in who could last out there the longest, that's all they cared about, it would probably be a sea of big game hunters, I would think, primarily. Do you think, or what do you think? Like, what do you think is the best background for like just straight up surviving out there the longest? That's a hard question. That's what they're trying to do.
It's a really hard question, man, because like, there has been a pretty wide variety of different types of people be really successful out there. I mean, you look at like a lot of the women who do well on the show, for example. I mean, most of them aren't big game hunters.
Right.
And even though, we haven't had a female winner of Alone, if you look at like the top 10 longest lasting contestants.
Yeah, Callie's up there. Yeah,
Callie, Kylan. I mean, like it's like 5 women out of the 10. Like they're overrepresented in the top 10 kind of like longest stays.
Yeah.
And if they had a couple of those women on season 1 or 2, then they would have won for sure.
Yeah. Definitely.
But big game hunter, hunting big games is an important skill. Like I think that Jordan and Roland and Clay have shown that like that's the golden ticket.
If you can get a big animal, you can survive out there for a while. Yeah.
Exactly, as long as you don't crack mentally.
Right.
So every single person on a like, it shows in the 10 items that people are taking out there, right? Like, season 1 nobody brought a bow. Yeah. Season 9 everybody had a bow.
Yeah,
because everybody knew how to shoot a bow. And
people were good at this season on the bow, man. I couldn't believe how quickly they were drawn, and as soon as you guys would see an animal, just
Yeah.
Grouse seem to be the primary food source this year.
And honestly, even without the big game, I mean, that bow kept me alive for over a month. I killed 43 animals with my bow.
Primarily grouse and the one hare, or do you got one hare?
Grouse and squirrels.
Grouse and
So
squirrels.
I killed 22 grouse, 19 squirrels, and that snowshoe hare.
Yeah.
But like I believe that's more animals killed with the bow than anybody on the show.
Yeah.
And it was like that for a couple of people on the season. Tom also had a ton of bow kills as well.
Yeah.
But there was never that one big bow kill.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, what do you get, like 500 calories from a grouse? That's just enough to kind of justify going out there and trying for
it's
it.
Like that's one of the things that people don't realize. You watch on the show and they're like, oh, they're eating so well, and it's like, yeah, I mean, like, we're getting food every day.
They're expensive calories, though.
You need 12 squirrels, or maybe 6 grouse, 3 snowshoe hares. Like that's what you would need every day in order to break even. And there were very few grouse that I shot that I probably got more calories out of it than I put into getting it.
Yeah.
Because I was out actively hunting for 4, 5, 6 hours every day.
Yeah.
And my thought behind that was, if I'm going to get a bear, I need to go out and look for that bear, because I didn't have a lot of bear sign around my site.
Right.
So, I was really hunting for a bear, and the grouse would just pop up and I would stick them.
Yeah, and there has to be a psychological reward as well to just eating something, of course. I mean, even at a calorie deficit, it's probably, I remember in one of the early seasons, Sam, who ultimately won maybe another season, but I remember Sam put all this energy into making a deadfall for a mouse, and he finally got one, and it took him days, and they put up on the bottom, this mouse will provide 35 calories or something. Not even close to being worth the effort, but then again, it probably gave him a big win to rely on too.
Absolutely. Yeah, you're just not going to really thrive on small game out there. But it does, like you said, it gives you, I mean, I had some delicious meals.
Yeah, dude.
And I ate almost every single day. I think I only missed 2 dinners the whole time I was out there, and I was eating animal protein almost every day. I caught a lot of fish as well. I caught almost 50 trout. I caught 49 trout while I was out there.
Yeah. So I mean, I feel like the location, it's randomly drawn. Is that accurate? The actual location as to where you're going to be within the context of the show, like your actual site.
You mean like Labrador? Or you mean the site? The site that
the site that each person kind of gets drawn. Yeah.
So they pick the 10 sites, and then they do this like really elaborate, like double blind pick where you draw something out of a hat, and then like they line you up and you get a cupcake, and there's like a number inside the cupcake, and
just to make sure there's no look appearance of someone getting set up on the right spot or something. Yeah,
exactly. And like I really loved my site. I feel like, as far as just kind of like based off of what the other people I've talked to, all the other contestants I've talked to and watching the show, I'd say mine is probably one of the better sites potentially. I don't think it was the best. I think Benji probably had the best site, and Jacques, like a little bit further downriver, I think was probably the better sites. Not having really any beaver on my site was a bummer. Because that probably would have been the key to taking the prize this season, other than a bear. The bear are pretty hard to kill.
it seems like a lot of people it seems like most people that did get beaver, though, they loved it, but I feel like there was an illness that came with it, like a lot of them got giardia or something, right? Or something like that. Or I
think that was just circumstantial. I think I mean, like I think it's probably pretty safe to assume that Benji got sick off that beaver. But having talked to Terry, I don't think that was. I think he just starved out, dude. Like, he's a big dude.
Yeah, that
was one thing that
6'6" or something.
Yeah, man. No, that's quite. But like Igor was 6'6".
Oh,
There's like some massive guys this season. Like 3 of the guys were like 6'4", 6'6", and like, I mean, I'm 6 foot, and I was walking around. I'm like, man, I've never had to like look up at so many, many people.
Yeah. And so, you lost. Lost 60...
being massive is not a big advantage out. It's a disadvantage in the woods.
Yeah. Yeah,
sure. You're just burning so many calories just to exist.
yeah, dude. And you ended up losing what, like 65, 67 pounds, something of that nature?
No, I lost 57.
57. Okay.
Yeah.
So
But
you went in a little heavy, but I heard you say that you kind of lose that like fake weight pretty fast.
yeah, I normally weigh about a buck 85, and I went out there at 215. So I had put on about 30 pounds for the show. And I came out at 158
It's
or
light.
157. It's just skinnier than I've ever been in my adult life. Like I
That's
don't
like
think I've weighed.
junior high
Yeah,
type.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
So I lost a lot of weight, and everybody did. That's just the nature of the show. Like you don't go on alone expecting to gain weight
Yeah.
or
Right.
to stay fat.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
I mean, so what were some of the big challenges? Obviously, your food's always on your mind. I was a little bit, right away, I thought, your personality was something that kind of stood out, but I kind of was a little concerned. First off, I'm a non-expert. I mean, when I've camped, it's been at like music festivals in a tent with like, so I'm not coming at this in any other way other than just watching the show. You put a lot of effort into your house right away, into your shelter, right? I mean, that was kind of, that was something that you kind of jumped on early on, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of folks kind of were taking the approach of, well, this is going to be the chance to get more food. I'm going to wait on a permanent shelter. So are you happy with that strategic decision? I mean, your house was a beautiful shelter.
I was super happy, dude. I was
Yeah.
still eating every day. I was bagging fish like crazy that first 2 weeks. So, I would work on my house all day, and I work construction now.
Yeah.
Like I've been working construction for off and on for a long time, but like that's kind of my main gig other than shearing.
Yeah.
I have the skills. I know how to put in a day's work when it comes to that kind of thing.
Right.
So I would just bust it out. I had that house built in 6 days, and that to me was a really good use of kind of calories early on, because I mean you saw like on our season there were people working on their shelters on like day 50,
I know.
and it's like, come on, man. Like I mean, I have nothing, like everyone's got their own specific strategy, but the people I've talked to that were working on their shelter that late have said to me like, I should have had it done earlier.
Yeah.
I should have had it done earlier, because by that point you were so drained. The last thing you want to be doing is like cutting down branches and
Yeah.
just working on anything really other than trying to get food. That's all you care about at that point.
Yeah.
So I busted it out quick, and I think that my design was solid. I wouldn't change a thing about my shelter. I loved my shelter.
It was cool. You called it Moss House, right? That's
Moss
your
house.
Moss House.
Yeah.
Yeah, little callback to Roland there a little bit too. I like
A little
that.
bit. Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta pay homage to the legends.
I was trying to channel my inner Roland a little bit.
Aren't we all? I'm trying to every day. Yeah. Yeah, so that's pretty great, crazy, man. I mean, talk a little bit about what goes into setting up a shot, because you're obsessed with food pretty short, pretty quickly into the contest. You're basically obsessed with food, I imagine.
Yeah.
And so how do you weigh that against the need to actually generate good content? I mean, are the producers kind of in your ear when they see you on the weight checks and say, hey, we need more footage, or what kind of pressure is there on that? Or you probably did a good job of doing it. Yeah.
I feel like I really actually enjoyed the filming, which is maybe a little different from some of the other contestants. I saw it as my job, like I when I have a job, I take it pretty seriously. And to me, I was like, okay, like I get to be out here and do this thing. And in exchange, I have to give them good footage.
Yeah.
And it never really was like, I gotta drag this camera around, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
There were a couple of times early on where I was trying to shoot a grouse, and I take the time to set up my big camera, and in the meantime the grouse would fly away and I'd lose my chance at the shot.
Yeah.
After that happened a couple of times, I was like, we're just going to do that with the GoPro.
Yeah. Keep the GoPro ready at all times. Hit the button,
Yeah,
and you go.
Exactly. So I actually mounted the GoPro on my bow, and it was just like running all the time.
That's cool.
And that's the thing that they drill down into you is like, they know that you're not professional camera people. So they're telling you again and again and again before you go out there, always have a camera running, because that's the time you just don't is when the time like a freaking bear is going to walk right by or something like that, you know?
Yeah.
So just, you know, they kind of tell you, like, if you don't get it on film, it didn't happen, in the sense that, like, it's just, if they don't have any footage of it, they can't put it in the show. They can't just have you talking about, oh man, I just saw this bear walk by, it was crazy. No one's going to want to see that. They want to see a shot.
Prove it. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, you kind of know, like, it's so funny. Like, people think that I love all the conspiracy theories on the
hilarious,
various like groups and stuff. People think there's like hidden cameras everywhere, or that they're like, you know, putting all this undue pressure on you to like get a shot or whatever. There's none of that. They don't really talk to you when they come out to do health checks. That's one of the things. They don't want to break the wall, you know, they don't want to break through that wall of isolation that they're trying to imbue in you. So it's like very kind of like strictly business, like asking about your poops and asking about, you know, like, have you been dizzy, just health related questions. And also, like, they're not really looking at the footage, because you got to consider the fact that, like, they're getting thousands of hours of footage. It's not just me sending them footage. They're getting all the other contestants, and everybody's filming a lot. So it's like, you know, at any given time, I'll have the big camera going, I have the GoPro going, and they're just running while I'm like walking through the woods. And it's like they've got countless hours of
fast forwarding,
like, a GoPro just kind of, you know, like trudging through the brush.
Right.
And, you know, it's kind of like throw enough shit at the barn door and some of it'll stick.
Yeah.
So I was just filming everything. I mean, I can't tell you how many like hours of, like, I would set up the camera on the tripod and it would just be footage of me like picking berries. So many hours of that. And yeah, I mean, I don't think a single second of that made the show. Right. They don't care about berry picking.
Yeah.
But I have the camera set up in case I'm picking berries and a bear just happens to kind of like come up over the ridge or something, you know?
Right. Yeah.
But there were times when you're like, okay, here's some more berry shots, guys.
Sorry. Yeah, you're like handing over. I'm sorry about that.
I don't know what to tell you. It's like, I'm going to be picking berries for the next 3 hours.
Well, I'm sure you've heard this from other folks, but man, you did a great job on the entertainment side of it too. Not only were you doing really well, but I mean, it was entertaining. The Halloween sketch was hilarious. So did you give like an intro on the video, the raw footage, and say like, here's what I'm planning on doing. Can you guys piece this together? Or did you actually kind of do a live edit out there where you were stopping and starting the camera and all that?
I tried to do a live edit, and you know, like the whole thing with the Halloween skit, I can't stress how little I thought about that. I was literally waiting for water to boil.
Literally, like the people use that as like a boring, as like a way to explain boring, like, something.
And I had just made that stupid like cone beak thing, and I was like, what am I gonna do?
Yeah.
I know what I'll do. I'll set up I'll do this little shot. Yeah. And I just kind of like, I tried to set it up where I was doing it live, but then I realized that the camera angle was getting changed every time.
That ruins it.
So I just kind of filmed it and, like, you know, like left the pause between each bit, and then I did the other side, and I was like, you guys could just stitch that together however you want, if you want to. I didn't actually think they would use it, but it ended up being pretty funny.
As a spectator, we thought it was great. As the creator of it, did you think that they did it justice, the way they stitch it together and everything?
Yeah, actually, it was perfect. It was exactly how I envisioned it.
That's awesome. Yeah,
it was good. I'm glad that's been immortalized.
Trick or treat! Oh, trick or treater! Wow, you look so cute. You little ptarmigan. I'm a grouse. Oh, grouse. I can never tell the two apart. Man, I don't have any candy. How about some berries? Berries? You know how far I had to walk to get here? Oh, the last guy I had was bear meat. Only got bear meat? Damn it.
The cheese was sliding off the cracker pretty hard at that point.
Whatever you can do to whatever. I imagine that had some effect of not being lonely when even though you're interacting with yourself, it probably made you feel like you were talking to somebody else, right?
Yeah, but it's funny. Halloween was actually the first day where I really started feeling homesick. I was just having a great time, and I was still having a great time even after that. It was like day 45 or something like that.
Yeah.
But they actually showed a shot of me like the next day, kind of like laying in bed, just like, man, I'm so homesick right now.
Yeah.
And it was just kind of like, I don't know. My girlfriend at the time, she's 12-year-old daughter, and I was like, thinking about them going out trick-or-treating and
Yeah.
just like wondering what everyone's doing back home. And it was kind of one of those moments where I was like, oh, wish I was home right now.
Yeah.
But that's normal, man, like under that kind of isolation, and you just gotta kind of like ride those waves. It's really hard. I've seen a lot of the contestants from previous seasons. They talk about, like, especially like the military guys.
Yeah.
They talk about like compartmentalizing, and they're like, I'm going out I'm on a mission, and I'm not even going to think about my family. Like, I'm just on a mission I'm out there till I get it done.
Yeah.
It doesn't work.
No, it wouldn't work for me either. Yeah.
You've gotta just kind of let it flow through you. If you're feeling homesick, don't try and like force that away. Like, just sit with it and just let it kind of like run its course, and be honest with yourself.
Yeah.
And ultimately, I think that is otherwise you just crack
at like inopportune times too.
Yeah, exactly. And I think you one of the most interesting parts of the show is just like watching people's breaking points. And just seeing what it is what they might break over. I find the psychological aspect of the show the most interesting part.
100%.
Yeah. And I like the bushcraft skills and stuff as well. Like, obviously I'm into that, and I find it fascinating. But the thing that I think the reason why the show is such a successful show is because of the psychology of isolation. And I mean, that's why it's called Alone and not In the Woods.
Exactly, dude. Yeah. when people complain about that, I just like, it's hilarious to me as like an observational person. It's like, you're tuning into a show called Alone, and you're upset about the fact that people are talking about how they don't want to be alone anymore. That's the show.
Yeah, exactly. And like, if you're into hunting or bushcraft or whatever, man, there are so many channels on YouTube that's all there is. Like, just you can go and watch to your heart's content.
Yeah.
There's no other show on TV that's like putting people in this extreme situation and just watching how their brains handle it.
Yeah. I mean, we're fans of the show Big Brother. It's a running, obviously everyone kind of knows about it, but like, people ask me like, why do you like that show? Because they see the games and they're all kind of stupid and colorful, and it's like, it's the psychology. You got these people, they're isolated, they only can talk to one another, there's no outside influence, they get paranoid, they start thinking their mind. It's like you can start to see yourself sometimes in situations like that. Like what you talked about, how compartmentalizing doesn't work. I kind of liken that to, we've all lost close friends and family and things like that through death. And I've experienced the same thing, where like the times where I was just trying to put my grief aside, forget it, it would bubble up at the times where I'm in the middle of a work call or something, and it's just inappropriate at that time to be thinking like that. So when I've always been able to heal the best through mourning, it's been like, when it's there, you gotta address it. And not to mention, thinking about your family when you were homesick kind of makes it feel like you were with them for a minute. Your memories have the ability to make you feel like you're in that moment again. You should embrace that, not shun it. Again, coming from someone that's never been on the show, but that's your kind of experience too.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's to say also, like, everybody works differently as well.
Certainly.
And people process things differently. I think that Juan Pablo, who won our season, is one of the most mentally strong people I've ever met in my life.
Completely.
I am in awe of his toughness, mental toughness. Just and it's funny, like, I obviously when you meet everybody else at boot camp, and then moving on, like, you learn who was going to be on the show with you. There was never doubt in my mind from boot camp onwards that Juan Pablo wasn't going to be on the show. You
can he's pretty skilled too. No, people talk about how he starved himself out there, but he's very skilled.
Dude, he did 100 days in the Manitoba wilderness in the winter by himself for fun. Like, that's a different breed of human. Like, if you don't think that guy's a front runner right out of the gate, like, you're not paying attention.
Yeah, dude.
Like, I honestly would put Juan Pablo, if I was a betting man and they did like an elite all-star season with
All the
kind of
winners, or yeah,
all the winners, I'd probably put my money on JP,
that's awesome to hear.
honestly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he seems like I imagine you've formed relationships with a lot of these folks too, right? I mean, to some
Yes.
degree, yeah. It
Yeah.
seemed like a
Yeah.
really solid cast of people this year, above
All
any year.
great. Not a single asshole in the bunch.
Yeah,
Like they're all really cool. And the two alternates as well. Like everybody was just great. So it was a good show, man. Like like the casting is a really hard job. I don't envy the people who have to do the casting for this show,
yeah.
because you see that on the Facebook groups and stuff all the time as well, where people are like, oh, they always throw in a couple of ringers in there every year who, people who they know are going to tap out quick. They don't do that.
No,
They don't need to do that
it's gonna happen
because
naturally.
the environment does it for them. Yeah, and they honestly, I don't think know who that early tapper is going to be. They just know that statistically, out of 10 people, someone's going to crack early,
Yeah,
and it could be anybody. They're just looking at people who have the baseline skill set to do well with maybe that kind of X factor, something that they haven't tried before, they haven't seen before,
yeah,
and that is going to like present themselves well on TV,
yeah.
and then just throw them out there and see who wins.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that they have their own kind of like, you
They
can
have a
look at
betting pool in the office, probably.
probably I
Yeah,
would,
yeah.
I certainly would.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you can look at some people, like you look like I knew straight out of the gate, I was like, Juan Pablo is going to be he's going to be standing there towards the end,
Yeah.
short of some kind of injury or accident that would take him out of the game. And I thought the same thing about Benji as well.
Yeah.
And I do think Benji probably would have been in the top three if he hadn't gotten sick.
Yeah.
But
Who was the kid? Who was the first? So somebody went out on like day 15, which is or something like that, which is I think the first person went out at 15.
yeah,
Is that right?
yeah, that was Jock.
Jock, that kid was like so moving to see his background and like what he's gone through and his trauma, and yet he was still getting flack on Facebook for leaving day 15. It's like it's the longest anyone's ever gone before the first one's gone out. Like what are you people expecting?
Yeah,
But
man, fuck these guys.
yeah,
Honestly, like,
it's hilarious. It's annoying and
dude,
hilarious.
I felt bad. Like, Jacques was really affected by that, and like, he's such a nice guy, and he's 23 years old.
No kidding. Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. What were you guys doing at
that's-
23?
I mean, he's a freaking like mountain guide in Alaska. The dude's hardcore as fuck.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
he's no joke. But like I don't fault him at all for deciding that his priorities are in the wrong place.
Yeah,
There's
dude.
nothing wrong with that. Like, ultimately, like only one person's gonna win. So, that you gotta everyone's gonna tap out. Other nine are gonna tap out at some point. It doesn't it's just
Yeah.
it's funny to me that people love to, I don't know, just people like bitch.
People
Like,
are just
Yeah.
miserable themselves and they want to bring everyone else in on it. That's kind of how I see it, But
Yeah.
I imagine that seeing Jock kind of go through the things he went through probably brought you back a little bit to your Utah wilderness training too, because of a lot of the stuff that you were dealing with your pupils there probably were trying to go through some trauma and some things like that had happened to them when they were kids.
Yeah. Yeah, and we have Jock and I actually have some similarities in our upbringing, and I was also bullied quite badly when I was younger. And
Yeah.
I was a chubby little British kid with British accent.
Yeah, coming to Florida,
prime target for
Yeah.
for bullying.
right?
And that was one of the reasons why I liked being out in the woods so much. So it was, interesting, but like obviously I have had an extra 15 years to process that stuff
Yeah.
and kind of move past it. And honestly, like the sailing trip for me, being alone all that time out at sea was like I had all the opportunities to like air out my closet and like pull all the skeletons out and examine them and like throw them away,
Yeah.
And I think that for a lot of people who've been alone, who haven't had that opportunity, it definitely comes up when you're out there.
Yeah, you can't hide from it out there.
No, that's good TV though.
It's great TV, but Jock, if you're watching and listening to this, dude, you did an awesome job. Fuck
Hell yeah.
the haters. It was inspiring
Absolutely.
to watch. I was bawling when you were talking a lot. I don't know. I'm an
Yeah.
emotional guy.
Yeah, and he ended up popping the question to his girlfriend as well.
Oh, he better have. I mean, she
I know,
she would have been
right?
like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah.
Yeah,
So there was a happy ending at the end of that. I mean,
yeah,
you
man.
know, he's got a really good life ahead of him.
Yeah.
I don't think he regrets it at all.
No, he did a great job.
Not at least.
Everyone did a great job. I get, and including you, man. You should. I hope. I can't imagine. You don't seem like a guy that's going to dwell on what some might consider a failure. It's not a failure. You went to the point where you had nothing left in the tank. You maybe could have made it another week struggling by or something, but it was near the end. Do you think you could have made it to JP's length had you not gotten so homesick?
I thought that until I actually watched the final two episodes. And then like I saw that scene of him pulling his shirt up on day 70, whatever.
And
when
he still had some work left.
dude, I mean, he looked like I looked on day 52.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, he was sprightly. He was throwing freaking snowballs at his girlfriend,
Yeah,
and like,
I know, just walking around looking for bears and
just
shit.
walking around having a good time.
Yeah.
And it's like, dude, like he was, yeah, there's no way. There's no way.
Yeah.
And I mean, you're always gonna have, I think everybody has kind of like a inclination to go back and like check the playbook and
Yeah.
think about things they could have done differently. I know from all of the people I've talked to that there's and all the people who didn't win, even Juan Pablo is probably like thinking about things he could have done differently,
Yeah.
but it's human nature. But I don't know. I try not to regret anything I do in life.
Yeah.
And it's like I said when I left, like I gave it 100% and I tried the best that I could. And yeah, I probably could have ground it out for a little bit longer. And but I'm glad that I didn't. But there's definitely been a couple of times I've been at home and like got my tool belt on, swinging a hammer.
Like, man, it'd be nice to have a $500,000.
Look around, I'm like, fuck.
Yeah. Man, I couldn't have just found a bear out there. What the fuck? Yeah.
Exactly. Oh, it wasn't for lack of trying.
Yeah.
I dreamed about that bear.
Yeah.
I think that kind of came across as well. I talked about bears a lot out there. I was kind of obsessed with it.
I think everyone talks about it out there. I mean, they really market that part of it too. They show the polar bear, especially.
Yeah, that was silly.
Yeah.
I wish I hadn't done that. Like, come on, guys. Like, don't tease people with something that never happens. The polar bear. Come on.
Yeah, it's almost like it's marketing to the rare person out there that really just wants to see a contestant get murdered out there by a bear. It's like there's a different kind of person that's like, oh, I hope that happens. Because I mean, what would you have done had you come across a polar bear? Actually, do you try to shoot it like you do
yeah, I mean, like the if you had them coming at you, you would have just tried to use the same deterrents that you would for the black bears, bear spray, bear bangers, air horn, that sort of stuff. But I mean, yeah, it would have been sketchy as hell.
Sketchy, yeah. You would have been wishing you were swinging a hammer when you had a polar bear bearing down on you.
Yeah. But I'm actually I'm heading back to the Arctic next year, and I will definitely be having polar bear encounters. Me and another friend are attempting to row the Northwest Passage next year.
Wow!
So it's never been done. It's been attempted many times. Trying to transit the whole of the Northwest Passage in one season. It's 2,000 miles over the top of Canada, deep in the Arctic Circle. And you basically because of climate change, the last 10 years it's just started to become possible where the sea ice is receding enough to like allow for a really short window where you can kind of like get through.
There's time for it, at least
on a small boat. Yeah, but like it's really weather dependent, and like you're still dealing with a lot of sea ice. You deal with some crazy weather, and of course there are a ton of polar bears up there, so it's going to be it's gonna be very type 2 fun.
yeah, but at least you have a friend to share it with, though. Too, that'll be cool.
Yeah, but it's easily the most challenging thing I've ever done. Like it's pure wilderness out there, and there is zero margin for error.
Yeah,
and we're in 19-foot rowboats, so like
together. So each of you are rowing individually, or?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So we're both gonna have a boat, and the boat has like a little sleeper cabin in it, and just enough kind of storage to load up like a month worth of food and supplies. And there's like a couple of villages we can stop out along the way where we can resupply. But we'll be out in the wilderness for about a month at a stretch.
Well, you have too good of a flair for the camera not to make sure you film the shit out of this thing too.
Oh, we're making a documentary.
Yeah, you better. Yeah.
We're actually, I'm going to plug that for a second because we're going to be
crowdfunding that on Kickstarter next month.
Oh, hell yeah.
So yeah, so we'll have a Kickstarter campaign starting in October, where if anybody's interested in
Dude, for
watching this
sure.
documentary, they can come and drop $20 or whatever.
Yeah,
And,
we'll make sure we
you know.
share that when that's released too from the website from our network too. And honestly,
But
if you guys need any sort of editing and AV support, things like that, let me know. I'd be happy to support it.
okay,
That'd be super
sweet.
cool.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks. My partner, who is going to be the filmmaker, is a YouTube content creator.
Yeah.
He's really talented. His
Hell yeah.
name's Matty Clark. He was actually the alternate for our season.
Did you meet him
he's
there, or did you know him in advance? Wow.
there? Yeah. So it's a real shame he didn't make it on the show. He would have crushed it.
Wow.
Uh,
Now you get to
but
make a documentary. Do you guys know what you're going to call it yet?
over the top.
Over the top. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Not to be confused with the Sylvester Stallone arm wrestling movie.
Yeah, well, we're channeling some Stallone vibes.
They're better. If there isn't at least one arm wrestling scene out there, maybe even with a polar bear, I'm going to be disappointed.
Exactly.
Well, dude, that's exciting. Well, obviously be safe, but enjoy that. That's going to be cool. I'm anxious to see it, and we'll, excited to see how the thing flows. What are some? This is kind of going to be the last segment here, I think. But you learned a ton out there. You had learned a ton throughout your life. You have a vast array of experiences. What are you taking with you? If you had to kind of distill it down to a few things that you learned on this unique experience, and not only because you're alone, but because you're alone and also in a media environment, which is such a contradictory thing. Like you're trying to survive out there. You're obsessing over food, but you're also filming, and you're also going to be sharing this vulnerability with all these Tom, Dick, and Harrys who think they're better than you or that appreciate you or whatever the case is. So how does that all look to you now, looking back on the experience, having watched the show now for the first time and all that?
As far as things that I'll take with me from the show, it's probably going to sound a little bit cliche, but like that the show really deepened my love and my appreciation for my family and my friends and my community and my loved ones. The old saying, absence makes the heart grow fonder, but like you really do feel it deep down in your bones when you're out there, like what's truly important in life. And it is amazing how quickly the concept of a cash prize becomes totally irrelevant to you when you're out there. It's like you go out and you're like, yeah, $500,000, hell yeah. And by about like day 30, you're like, what even is money?
I just want to pet my dogs and see my parents.
Like this is insane.
Yeah.
Like this whole concept is insane. I'm out here, so like you lose grasp of that idea of like the money being important really quickly. And I'm not just speaking for myself there. Yeah. Everyone I've talked to on the show has the same kind of epiphany.
Yeah. It's probably just telling us that money doesn't fucking matter. You obviously need a little bit of it to survive, but Adam's been doing kind of random jobs here and there and having a life that most of us could only dream of having in terms of experiences. So it's like, take it from them. Yeah. Money doesn't matter as much as you think.
I understand I have a lot of privilege there in the fact that like I'm healthy. I'm like a white man, kind of getting through the world is a little bit easier for me than some other people going to a place like sub-Saharan Africa or something like that.
Certainly.
If you're a woman, but still doable. I know plenty of badass women who have done that. But yeah, it's really like, I trust me, I would have been happy to win the prize money, but like you have to have something deeper to cling to when you're out there. And that love of your family and your support network and your home and stuff like that, like really kind of comes through as like what's truly important. And I also really like appreciated how deeply connected to my food I was when I was out there. I had never in my life spent so much time just living entirely off of food that I had like harvested myself.
Yeah. That day.
And just that day, within a mile of my house.
Yeah.
And you're in this situation where when I left, I mean, like I was like the best cleanse I've ever been on in my life. You know, like I had been 2 months without alcohol, drugs,
Yep.
cigarettes, caffeine, dairy,
Bad food.
uh, yeah, like high fructose corn syrup, all of that bullshit was, and all of the fat that I had in my body that would cling to that stuff is gone.
Yeah.
You know, so I was just like, I felt really, really like deeply tuned into my body.
Yeah.
And that was such a cool feeling. And I remember like one of the things I wrote in my journal when I came out of the bush, I was like, you gotta manifest that at home a little bit better.
Yeah.
Which I've tried to do. But
That was going to be my next question is, so, you know, did you spend a lot of time with your family after you learned what you learned? And did you actually stick to it and kind of like get away from the bullshit that we all put in our bodies on a daily basis out of convenience and et cetera?
Yeah, but yes to the first question. Like I've always been pretty close to my family, but like definitely held them a little closer when I got home for sure.
Yeah.
The second one, yes, it is hard though, man. You know, like
Yeah.
you get busy with your life and you get back into your routines, and you know, the beer and ice cream just tastes so damn good.
Yeah, especially after a long day working. It's like running through a drive-through isn't that terrible of an
And
idea.
the other crazy thing that people don't realize is when you lose that much weight that quickly, your body goes into this like starvation mode. And I actually like, man, I gained so much weight so fast when I came back. It was unreal. Like
Yeah.
I shot back up. And I told you earlier, I normally sit at like 185. I'm like over 200 right now, and like cannot lose that extra like 15 pounds.
Yeah, because your body's
just
like, fuck you, man. I know what you're.
yeah, just like, no, keep it. You're gonna starve us again. I know it.
Yeah, you're going up to the Northwest Passage soon. Who knows what's going to be going on up
Yeah,
there?
well, that's it. Like I kind of like got that in my head as well. I was like, I'm gonna need that extra weight once I go up there. For
You might as well go big. Just try to get to 250 for
yeah.
Northwest.
I wouldn't want to have to row that much.
Yeah, right. Yeah, lots of breaks. Yeah. Well, dude, I mean, it was super inspiring to watch you. It was fun. It was fun, and I am glad that your experience, you know, that you got a lot out of it too, and that you're feeling positive about it because you certainly should. And I hope
Thanks.
to see. I think if they ever, you know, they're doing this XL or this Frozen, Alone Frozen thing right now. You know,
Yeah.
so if they ever give you another call, you'd be back. I saw in one of your episodes.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd love to do Frozen. I'd love to do the skills challenge. I think I'd really enjoy that one as well. That skills show is really fun to watch.
I haven't
don't
watched
know.
that yet. It's worth checking out.
Oh, dude, it's cool, man, because it's like you get to watch people who you've watched on the show before. They're not suffering. They're well fed. They're kind of joking around, and they're just kind of showing off their skills. And it's like low stakes, but like it's just good TV. I think it's really entertaining.
Yeah, that's dope. Yeah.
Whereas Alone Frozen is like the ultimate suffer fest.
I know. It's almost depressing to watch that one. It's like, oh, it's bleak. They're getting there right about when everyone was leaving in the previous
I'm hoping that it kind of upticks a little bit here in the next few episodes.
It just looks cold. Like I have a hard time not.
Yeah,
like,
but the
feeling
crazy
cold
thing is
watching it.
they're like 5 miles away from where we were.
Yeah.
So, but the weather is quite different. Like, you know, that coastal weather, like it really hits different. Like, obviously, they were getting a lot more rain than we were.
Yeah.
We did get a lot of rain as well. But it seems a little harsher out there for sure.
Yeah, and they got there later too, right? They started a little bit later.
They got there later, yeah.
Yeah.
I think about a month after us or something like that.
Well, here's what I can tell you. I'm going to be sitting here comfortably at my house and watching whatever comes. I don't envision a life change in which I would end up on Alone. But if it ever happens, folks, you can watch me struggle out there for a couple days before I hit the button. You know, it would almost be fun to take all the highest complaining Facebook audience and put them out there. You know,
I would love that. I would absolutely love that.
Yeah, just see how quickly they can all go.
Do that for like a YouTube channel.
Yeah, exactly. Well, so and then obviously everyone look out for the Talking the Addicts social medias. We'll be posting Adam's Kickstarter what's it Kickstarter campaign for Over the Top. That's going to be an exciting project. So is that kind of your next big thing that you've got on the calendar outside of just kind of?
Absolutely. Yeah. Fully focused on that right now. I'm not even working at the moment. I'm building the boats myself.
Oh, hell yeah.
So I'm out in my shop building a boat. I've got a couple of boat build videos on my YouTube channel if people want to check that out and kind of follow along. I'll be posting a lot of stuff on YouTube. Adam Riley is my channel.
Go down to the show notes, folks, whether you're watching or listening, and you'll see links to go support Adam. Check him out. You know, he gave you guys a lot of entertainment. You know, you're all streaming History Channel probably from your cousin's passwords anyway. So you got a bunch of free content from this guy. Go support him back. He deserves it. He's doing good things. Adam, it's been a pleasure getting to know you. I'm happy. I'm grateful that you came on this little show to share some insight. It's been fun.
Yeah, man. Thanks a lot.
Yeah. Cheers.
All right.
In this attic, lot going on, but there ain't no need to panic. Come on up and join, we getting wild, getting manic. Spitting truth for all you fanatics. Every week got something new to say. Ain't no filter, this shit coming straight from the brain.
It's coming straight from the brain.
Yeah, it's coming straight from the brain.